Last week, Keith Faniff from the Journal-Inquirer and I interviewed another independent candidate for Senate, Vinny Forras, a former firefighter from Ridgefield who spent 3 weeks at Ground Zero. Mr. Forras, thank you for being with us today. First of all, for those of us who are not familiar with your background, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm a father of 3 children of my own, and total of 7, so I have the Brady Bunch. One of them is a serving U.S. Marine, and I served as a firefighter at Ground Zero for 3 weeks after 9/11. Graduated Manhattan College, was a businessman as well, so I have kind of a diverse background.
Why do you want to be a senator from Connecticut?
Well, for me, it's watching what's happening to our country nowadays. I just can't sit by. I answered that call on 9/11 knowing that we're running into an emergency and giving our best. And watching what's happening now, I believe that we're in the same situation, maybe even worse. And it's time for we the people, like a citizen candidate, to step up and represent the people instead of misrepresenting the people.
How would you characterize Senator Dodd's performance?
Again, I have nothing against him personally. I mean, everyone likes to snipe at him. I'm sure that, you know, he served our country. I know he was in the military. He's been in politics all his life, 30-plus years. But I believe that when you're in power that long as he's been, it eventually does catch up with you. It does corrupt your ability to make the right decisions for the people. There's so many outside sources that are pulling at your ability to make good decisions for the people. I think he's served the state long enough at this point, and it's time for him to sort of move on.
You can craft a great message for a campaign, but the sad reality is if you can't get that message out to enough voters, you can't win. Doesn't mean you can't run a good campaign, just means you can't win. When you look at the massive amount of money that Senator Dodd's been able to leverage in past campaigns, when you look at the type of money the Republican candidates are bringing to the table, what plan, if any, do you have, not just to develop a message you want, but to actually get it to voters?
Well, you know, for me, I think the people of the state are sitting back and evaluating the quality of their candidates. And the message will get out over time. I know that the Republicans and the Democrats have almost money to burn, and it's sad. My stance is that I am controlled by no party, whether it's Republicans or Democrats. And for me, it's the only special interest group of the American people and the people of Connecticut. So it's like one of those grassroots efforts that over time, I believe, people will start to look at these other candidates and say, that's the same old, and here's a man that's paid his dues, that is ready to represent our wishes for a change. And I think that will catch on. You know, stranger things have happened in our country.
What is your strategy for winning in the state?
Strategy for winning for me is, I believe Mr. Dodd almost campaigns against himself with his record. So I'm not really out there to campaign against him. And the Republicans, depending on what week we're in, we don't even know who's running at this point and where they're going to run. So it'll fall down to a smaller number of people. They'll kind of hammer each other and expose their weaknesses and such. And I plan on following what the people want me to do and go right down the middle and be honest and be a candidate that represents them with character and integrity. And I think what people want is accountability. And I haven't seen the same out of the other candidates. I just believe that with my brother firefighters, police, blue collar, everyday people of the state are looking for a change. And we kind of didn't know what that change is years ago. And maybe when the president ran, all we heard was that word. And maybe that's what he was kind of telling us, that the change is that we, the people, are going to start getting involved in our government and maybe make that change.
Maybe I can go back for a minute to that point you said about some of the other candidates have not shown enough accountability, because whenever you're taking on an established incumbent with a long history like Senator Dodd, most of the challengers are going to focus their message on we believe there's a lack of public confidence in Senator Dodd, and you can argue that that's the single biggest message that's come out of most of the campaigns so far. But if you have that as well, and if there's not something to go with it, you don't separate yourself from the rest. You just are another challenger who's unfortunately not as well funded. Do you have a platform you're developing on things like healthcare, on the economy, job development? And could you also talk about why you think the other candidates don't bring accountability to the table?
Well, again, these are people that either have been in politics their entire life or, you know, in very big businesses that may not be in touch with the everyday person on the street. So obviously, we have to deal with issues as well. Again, I'm not running against Mr. Dodd. That's not my policy. That's not what I'm looking to do. You know, people are going to vote for people because they like and appreciate who they are. So that's where I'm coming from. I mean, healthcare, obviously, I've spoken at several rallies. I actually spoke at the 9/12 movement in Washington in front of over 1.5 million people. And I've spoken at many different things. And healthcare is broken. It needs to be fixed. Whether the entire system needs to be trashed and the government needs to take it over, I think there's a lot of areas that we need to put together people that are experts both in medicine, business, and such, and allow for competition across the country. To me, Americans do best when they compete and have an open market. So, you know, for me, healthcare is of absolute importance. Jobs right now is the #1 issue in Connecticut. So we really need to get the people working on jobs that are not just giveaways from the government or part of the stimulus plan that'll either kick in just before the election and people are going to feel good about it. We need long-term jobs. We need to develop alternate energies, many other things which we do have, and I go into great detail on my website as well.
Who did you vote for president?
I did not vote for the current president, if that's the question. But
well, who would you like to caucus with if you were elected? Would you caucus with the Democrats or the Republicans? Who do you?
For me, we cannot continue to be separated and sniping against each other and have nothing to get done. You know, I really believe it's time for this country to come together rather than being separated. Right now, I think there's as much on either side that's either good or bad, and if we keep dividing ourselves like this, this country can't succeed. We must find a way to find a common ground here.
Just curious, were you affiliated at any point in your past with a major party? Do you have any background in local government service, state government service?
No, I'm a registered lifelong Republican, and I've had no experience in politics whatsoever, which to me would be the #1
Just jumped
reason.
in at the Senate.
Yeah, you know what? I think we're at that point where it's like the movie Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, and we really need to find a way to get our country back on track, and to have the folks continuing to misrepresent what the people want. Like, I feel like I'm in the twilight zone sometime with what's going on. I really do.
Do you have a budget for this campaign as to how much you need to raise?
We have some pretty good ideas. We have some very good people that are involved with that. But, you know, I think if we can come up with about $3 million, we figure we can actually win this thing. Not only because that's what it takes for the dollars and the polling and all the things that you need, but we have some very good access because of my background to other networks and media who really want to hear my message and feel that it's time to get an actual citizen candidate in there.
Vincent Forras, independent candidate for Senate. Thanks for being with us today. Keith Vanek, nice to see you back from the JI.